Peace, love, and light, family. I am Picasso Cognizance. This is Resolute Fathers. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell a friend about Resolute Fathers. And make sure you get the copy of the book, Who's the Daddy? It is on Amazon. According to NewYorkTimes.com, child support versus deadbeat states. When states take over managing child support, watch out. Most of the money paid in by parents often disappears into state coffers. It doesn't have to be that way. How many of y'all agree with that? In most states in America, child support doesn't actually go to children, particularly when they are being raised in low-income families. Confused? You're not alone. Many people have no clue how the child support and public assistance systems operate. The first thing to know, if you are a custodial parent and apply for public assistance, most commonly temporary assistance for needy families or TANF, you are required by federal law to file a child support order. You hear that? Okay? There is no choice for either parent, says Jampa Bhattacharya, Vice President for Programs and Strategy at the Insight Center for Community Economic Development. For the custodial parent, you lose your much needed benefits if you do not comply. For the non-custodial parent, an order is set sometimes without your knowledge and often not based on your actual economic situation or an understanding of how you may be contributing in non-financial ways. What if you provide childcare, she adds, buy diapers or clothing regularly? Those things don't count. Wow. In fact, despite the deadbeat dad stereotype often pinned on whole categories of non-white men by racist politicians, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention report that black fathers actually spend more time feeding, dressing, playing with, and reading to their children, whether they live under the same roof or apart, than fathers of other races. But there's more. When applying for public assistance, the custodial parent is required to give up the right to receive the child support payments. They go directly to the state, which, depending on its policies, either keeps it all or passes through a percentage of it. What happens next varies from state to state. Let's say that the father actually sends the state his child support payment. The Office of Child Support Enforcement and the Federal Department of Health and Human Services says only 66% of support due in the 2018 fiscal year was collected. In more than half of the states, all of that money essentially disappears, at least as far as poor families are concerned. It's absorbed into the system, seen as back pay for the welfare system that is supporting the child. In other states, a state child support payment, usually around $50 and amounting to a small portion of what a parent paid in, is passed on to the child and his or her family. The rest again is absorbed by the state. Only 2 states, Colorado and Minnesota, passed the full amount of the support through to the custodial parent and child. You hear that? You hear that, family? In other states, a state child support payment, usually around $50 and amounting to a small portion of what a parent paid in, is passed on to the child and his or her family. The rest, again, is absorbed by the state. Only 2 states, the 2 states of Colorado and Minnesota, passed the full amount of the support through to the custodial parent and the child. Hustle game. Another twist. In some states, that $50 is counted as income and can push the custodial parent, usually a mother struggling to make ends meet, out of the range of eligibility for TANF entirely. In other states, the pass-through money, as is known, is not counted as income. Now, what happens if the non-custodial parent can't pay? A domino effect of penalties, again, varying from state to state. It is set into motion. Okay, if the non-custodial parent, usually a father, is employed, his paycheck can be garnished. If he has a driver's license, it can be taken away. Debt accrues. His credit score plummets. In many states, he is charged interest on the debt. In California, for example, that rate is 10%. Okay, so in California, it raised up to, its rate is 10%. of the debt of interest that the non-custodial parent is charged. For many non-custodial parents, these penalties are economically cataclysmic. Many can't get to work because of transportation barriers. Others have trouble securing housing because of low credit scores and end up homeless. Some work off the books in hopes of supporting themselves and their children directly rather than seeing money go to the state. Keep in mind that many are already challenged by the stigma of having a criminal record or having been incarcerated. Okay? The impacts are also emotional. Studies show that when fathers owe child support, they have significantly less contact with their children. And when they do interact with them, they are less effective parents. That also leads to decreased mental and physical health and worsens family relationships. I have seen so many fathers cycle in and out of depression and anxiety as they battle systemic oppression and try to maintain relationships with their kids. Charles Daniels, a therapist and the founder of a Boston-based nonprofit called Fathers Uplift, has written. His organization operated the country's first mental health and substance abuse treatment facility specifically for absentee fathers and families. Another cruel reality of the system, even if the custodial parent manages to get off welfare, the non-custodial parent continues to get bills from the state. Listen to this, family. Listen. In fact, national data indicates that a majority of payback payments come from parents whose families no longer receive public assistance. Then I tell you, it's a hustle game. They do not care about you, family. They do not care about the child, the custodial parent, the non-custodial parent, or anything like that. All they want is the money. The feds get 66% and the state gets 34%. You know what I'm saying? This is the partnership that the federal government and the state has with each other. So we all have to be mindful of this. A recent experiment illustrates the heavy impact that debt and the erasure of it can have on families in poverty. In it, the San Francisco Child Support Agency, the city's Financial Justice Project, philanthropic partners collaborated to pay off the debt of low-income parents, 30 fathers and 2 mothers paying child support. They made use of something called the Compromise of Arrears program, in which parents who owe child support debt need only come up with 10% of their debt, and the state will pay off the rest. For this reason, the pilot only required 40,000 philanthropic dollars. But why didn't the parents use the program themselves? You might wonder. The Urban Institute reports the most child support debt in California is owed by the parents who make less than $10,000 a year and in most cases owe more than $20,000. Currently, the median annual income of parents paying child support in California is about $14,600. 10% of a $20,000 debt is still $2,000. Far more than most low-income parents can afford. The Federal Reserve Board of Governors has reported that 40% of Americans overall don't feel that they can handle a $400 emergency. In addition, the paperwork is notoriously onerous, often averaging hundreds of pages a year. 32 non-custodial parents were freed of any more debt of paperwork as long as they would attend a workshop on debt relief. The results: their payment consistency was 18 to 28% higher than for similar parents who had not received complete debt relief. This runs counter to a primary argument for charging interest on government-owed child support debt, the assumption that it incentivized parents to pay on time. Okay, so like I say, man, let's take care of our responsibility, because it makes no sense, man. At the end of the day, the child is being harmed and hurt. You know, they see you two fighting and going at it. They don't know what's going on. And the next thing they do know is that they either at mommy house or daddy house. They see the separation. So custodial parents, look at your 4D application. Read it thoroughly. Okay? Read it thoroughly. And it will tell you clear as day that Child support is only there for the state's best interests. Clear as day. We got to be mindful of this, family. Fathers, stand up. Mothers, stand up. Take care of your responsibility. Okay? These kids did not ask to be here. Make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend and tell a friend about Resolute Fathers. Get the book, Who's the Dad? If you haven't got your copy, it is on Amazon. I am Picasso Cognizance. Peace, love, and light.